So you put that gun in your pocket. Give it to me. Oh, no. I'm saving that for another friend. Give it to me. I won't let you go until you do.
You won't let me go. Get out of my way, Jerry Donovan. Nobody's going to stop me.
That's where you're mistaken.
You asked for it.
Once upon a dark night that lasts forever, here comes a man named the Snow Ghost to shine some light in your day. The flame he brings never goes out, the light so bright shines on forever. He brings the true and pure souls to you from the Silver Mountain. Ooh, ooh, from the Silver Mountain. Ooh, ooh, from the Silver Mountain. From the Silver Mountain.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the world's loudest talk show host, Bruce Russell. How you doing, Bruce?
Pretty dynamite. How are you?
Were you going to swear there?
No.
You can't swear because today's guest is... Who's today's guest?
Father John.
Father John Madden of St. John's Church. How you doing, Father?
I'm great. Dynamite? Is that how I'm doing?
Yeah.
I'm doing dynamite?
And I'm Mike Benedetti, and we want to talk to Father John because there's a lot of exciting stuff going on at St. John's Church, and also a lot of things that have gone on in your life. What was your first question you wanted to ask?
Whenever you decide to become a Catholic priest, and how long you've been doing the St. John's soup thing here, and what was your first impressions about doing that?
Okay. I've been a priest 27 years, and I've been at St. John's 7, and so 7.5 probably. And we've done the soup kitchen for 7 years. We started in July of '04. So yeah.
And how did you become a priest? What's the story there?
Well, two things I think mostly. My mother and father. My father was, he's passed on, and my mother still, were very serious Catholics. They were very serious about their faith, and that's what they tried to instill in us as kids, you know. Mm-hmm. And then I grew up in Milford, and I went to St. Mary's School in Milford, and loved the Sisters of St. Joseph. Mm-hmm. And I knew that they were up to something, you know what I mean? They lived in that convent on the property, and I didn't have any real religious sense or anything, but I knew they were up to something. That
what do you mean were you up to something?
You know, they all lived together in that house, and then taught us school, you know. And so I had no sense of religious community or anything like that, but I knew that there was something
going on.
Something going on there.
Good or bad?
Yeah, good, obviously. And as I come to learn, you know, they had given up all kind of worldly goods in order to live together so that I could be educated. And I was really struck by that example, and then by some of them individually as well. So that's both those things, I think.
That was sort of the origination of that sentiment, and then you pursued that as you got into high school. And
yeah, you know, when you're a kid, you know, there's not a whole lot of thought about it. But towards the end of high school, I thought about it, and then after, I actually went to the seminary out of high school, which was probably too young, for a year or two, and then I finished at Holy Cross.
Okay.
And then after Holy Cross, I went to what we call major seminary, and after those 4 years, I was ordained a priest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where was you priest before you came here?
I started at St. Mary's in Jefferson in 1984. I was there 4 years.
Where's Jefferson at?
It's a part of Holden. It's a little section of Holden.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I was at Holy Name High School for 10 years.
Were you the principal there? Or?
I was the chaplain first, then the headmaster.
The headmaster,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where most of the gray hair comes from. And then I went to Clinton. I was in Clinton 5 years.
Right.
And then I spent 6 months at the Catholic Worker in New York, where we met Bruce for the first time.
All right.
Right? Remember we used to take the bread? We used to do the bread line together.
Sometime during the winter time, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we used to, Bruce and I used to, at the Worker in New York, they would get a donations every Sunday night.
Yeah.
And extra bread would be brought to the Lutheran church a few blocks away. So it was called the Bread Run. Mm-hmm. And on Monday morning, the shopping carts would be filled with bread, and they would be walked down to the Lutheran church.
We would walk by the park and people be hanging out there
That's
in their
right.
tents and their cardboard boxes and whatnot.
Yeah, it was something. Bruce and I would push these.
When was that? What year was that?
That was 03, 04. So you were young then.
All right.
Bruce.
Neither of you guys had white hair back then.
No, right, I know.
Could you talk for a minute about Dorothy Day and the Catholic Worker? Because I think that's sort of, I mean, I've lived in Catholic worker communities also, and I feel like that's sort of how I know you from these sorts of things.
Yeah. Well, like with countless people, the writing of Dorothy Day has always been very inspiring to me. And I think that the Catholic Worker and her philosophy.
We should point out also that people are. The soup kitchen is having right behind us, and people keep coming in and out of the door, which is why I'll be asking Father Madden some sort of ordinary question, and he suddenly goes, as people come in to try to have their private meetings in here. Not going to happen right now. Okay, anyway, back.
Good, thanks.
You're saying Dorothy Day.
Yeah, and I just felt that Dorothy's vision, the vision of the Catholic Worker, and that revolution of the heart and the personal. It's all about personal. Relationships and all that. Her whole vision is the most faithful vision I've ever encountered in terms of living of the gospel. It's not the best, probably, Okay. It's certainly not the most efficient or but it's the most faithful. And so after serving in some of these parishes and schools and stuff, I just sought and was given permission by Bishop Riley to go to New York and to experience the Catholic Worker community. And
then after that you came here, and then you were the, what were you? You weren't the pastor of St. John's.
I was the administrator.
You were the administrator of St. John's. It was sort of a tumultuous time in the parish's life, and then you eventually became the pastor here at St. John's.
Correct, right.
And you and a ton of other people have been doing the soup kitchen here for, like you said, 7 years. 7 years now. It doesn't seem that long.
Yeah, it goes by, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so, I wanted to ask you, do you have any advice that you would give somebody who was thinking about, if somebody said, I really want to start a soup kitchen in my parish, or I really personally would like to start serving the poor in some way. Do you have any thoughts or advice?
Well, just what we did, we had that desire to do it. So we investigated first in terms of what was the need, and we talked to other people who were doing it and all, and with the need was in the morning, and everybody sort of agreed with that. So that's what we did. We started it.
Because there's other soup kitchens, but they just weren't fitting that exact time and place.
Right, yeah.
They weren't exactly fitting that exact same requirements you guys were focusing on then, right?
Right, exactly. And it's proven true because we started at 10 in the morning, and now people are here at we opened the doors at 7:30 today, So morning really was a need in the city, a place to go and have a meal and hang out, right. So that's what I would, as simple as that, is investigate what the need is and then go ahead and respond to it, and be patient too, of course. Nobody came the first day or the second day, I forget when, it was a few days before although we had signs at the Mustard Seed and Salvation Army and other places that the meal was going on.
You find there's more people than is coming here in like fall and winter than opposed during the summer? Yeah,
definitely, yeah. The fall and winter, more than summer, later in the month, more than earlier in the month. What's today, the 10th? So it's sort of crowded, but on a week from today, the 17th, it'll be real crowded. The following week, it'll be more crowded.
Right, so mostly it'll be a lot more. This will be really probably more crowded during the winter time.
Exactly.
As soon as sometimes you'll be going across the street then to the old Union Station soon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we bought. It's actually over this way.
Well,
and we bought the old Union Station Farms building, or the old Cowan's meat building, and we're going to hope to have it up and going by next summer. But we're moving the meal and our food pantry over to there. It'll give us more space, a nicer environment. We're sort of cramped in here.
What are you going to use this part for once you move over there?
Well, that's going to be more of a youth place. We have a parishioner who's working on his Eagle Scout project, and what he's doing is I asked him to design that space to be more kid friendly, because that's something at St. John's. We had a parish council meeting last night and talked about it again, that really to try to focus more on youth activity.
I'm amazed at how busy the soup kitchen is these days. Like, I got up to get a cup of coffee, my seat was gone.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, when we're in the new building, like, we'll have more seats.
When I get up, my seat was still empty, so...
Yeah, well, they're afraid to take
People know about your seat, though.
They would never take your seat, Bruce.
Bruce, do you have any questions? You have any more questions? Otherwise, I'm going to ask another question.
What was your thought when you and I... what was your impression when you and I went down to do the bread run?
I was really, you continue to go down and visit. I was very impressed with the community there in New York at the Worker. And still, I haven't been down there in a couple of years now. I really should get down.
Yeah, they all say hi. I was just down there over the weekend. They all say hi.
Oh,
so.
Good. Yeah.
I mean, Square Whiskers is still the same it was. It's never changed.
Yeah,
so.
right. Huh? Yeah, they're characters and.
Like me.
Yeah, right. No, and they're not all as big a characters as you, Bruce.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's why you keep going down too. It's a real community. What those sisters had going on at the convent in Milford is what's happening down there.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a character, I could just be like come out of a regular vegetable garden and you pose off like a carrot or something. If I'm really a character.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce.
That's a good insight.
I wanted to ask you a question that I like to ask all sort of religious leaders that we have on the show, which is, why are you a Christian?
Because I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and the Savior of the world.
And why do you believe that?
Because I've had a relationship with Him that has convinced me of that. Yeah.
You know, that's kind of my answer when people ask me, and I never feel like it satisfies them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like me saying, like, I have this strong belief, and I know that I have this strong belief, and to a certain extent, it's led to a lot of strong action in my life. But like people say, like, I need to hear some words from you. I need to hear some logical argument from you, and my answer is usually to them is like, I don't have that. It's not that kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's logical to me, Mike. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's logical to me, but I don't feel like I can argue somebody into being the kind of Christian that I am.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a gift. Faith is a gift. I think it really is.
You really have to receive that gift and take that as a gift, because. I mean, I kind of run through the same thing. I mean.
Are you a Christian?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and why is that?
Because I have the same belief that because of Jesus Christ paid His price on the cross for all our sins.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so when somebody asks you to defend your faith, what kind of thing do you say to them? Do people ask you to defend your faith?
Not really, but I mean, maybe one time I was coming out of Pleasant Street Baptist Church, the one up on Pleasant Street, when I go to a Pastor Nolan, things like that. Somebody had come out, a bunch of kids came out and said, "Oh, you just came out of a Christian, you just came out of a church," and we kind of turned around and said, "You got something to say?" I said, "I'm proud of being a Christian. I'm not going to apologize for anybody for it."
Yeah.
I like that. Somebody says, "You're just in a church. What do you have to tell me?"
What's that?
What did you find out in there?
That's how it all started and has perpetuated. Anyway, I think that the first Christians gathered people into the community because they saw the way that they were living, and they wanted to live that way as well. So,
I mean, the other thing is I guess that, I mean, me being I mean, being sober for 24 years of alcohol, I mean, I think Jesus Christ is what really gave me the 24 years through his blessing, his grace, because he's what he ultimately, he's the one that really saved my life from living a destructive life, because, you know, I don't know why he grabbed me, but maybe just, I had a caring heart. I mean,
Yeah.
only God knows that.
And as you said, that's true, Bruce, that faith is a gift. There's no doubt about it. But all gifts demand a response, you know, and choice in that regard. And we can choose to accept the gift or not. And I think that's what we need to do. That we need to respond to the gift of faith. And then that's the only argument that we have. You know, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and that informs the way I live. And that's why, you know, scandals are so horrible, and because something more is expected of a Christian. Do you know what I mean?
Then yeah.
And that's why people, even, you know, people are crushed by it, and scandal. That's the word, scandal. You know,
it's true. It's true.
And on the other hand, by our example, just like those first followers, by our example, people will want to join.
When you became a Christian, was it really hard for you to believe, or at first?
You know, no. You know, as a kid, I didn't know. I'm
That's
sure,
what I mean.
but.
When did you start actually became that you actually believed? Because before
Were you raised as a Christian, Bruce?
you know, I mean, Protestant, I was raised as Presbyterian growing up, and I just started going to Pleasant Street Baptist Church, and I was invited. I mean, that's usually the only reason most of the people who come to church is because somebody invited them.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, they always talk about this. The church I go to is that go out and serve, which I do. I help them up to Pleasant Street, but they also just go out and give them the gospel. And it's just not that. It's really difficult sometimes to go out and do that because. You know, it's not that. It's not easy.
No, it isn't.
It's very hard. For me, it's very hard. I mean, maybe it's
for all of us. Yeah. But that's a really good point, Bruce. That it's not merely or only the example of life, but it's an invitation too. That we need to invite people.
And I think it's
come and see. Right. That's what he said to. To Philip and Nathaniel, I think.
I think it's easy.
Where are you staying? They asked. Come and see was his, and we need to do that.
And I think it's easier for everybody to do it together instead of one individual, because I think you get more if you go up and minister one person or something like that, and talk about the blood of Jesus Christ and stuff, then you're there defending it yourself, but there should be other people, other Christians who believe in the same thing and defend it together, because you know, you get the message more clear. It makes the message more clearer than if it's just one individual person.
Yeah, very good.
You know, what you say about scandal is interesting to me, just because I think about I don't know, like I'm out there doing things in the world, like not great things, but I'm like going on television talking about Christianity or whatever. And on the one hand, I feel like I sort of have to. I do want to talk about the gospel, and I do want to sort of say certain things I'm doing are motivated by my faith. And like you, I'm a Catholic. At the same time, like I feel like I'm such a screwed up Christian that I want to say to people like you should do this. Like it will get things more right between you and the world, and you and the universe, and you and your own heart. But like I don't feel like I'm a great example, and so I would really be worried about anybody who came to Christ like by my example, because like once they get to know me, they're like, oh well, you're just like screwed up, and I could argue to them like, oh, like things would be if I was not a practicing Christian, that would be way worse. But still, like people have a certain expectation, which I'm glad that they have that. I'm glad that they, it's encouraging, but at the same time, I sort of
But we're all sinners still.
We're all sinners
right,
still, yeah.
right.
And it's hard to, I think it's, especially when somebody doesn't know a lot about Christianity or hasn't really internalized that angle of it. It's hard to look at somebody who's, it's hard to look at somebody who's a Christian, and especially if they're in any kind of public way, and then turn around and say, well, and you're also a sinner, so like, what is the...
Let me ask you this question.
Well, I just want to see if Father John has any words of wisdom on that.
Well, I think that a huge part of it is growing, and trying to overcome the sins,
right?
And for people to see that, that we may be sinners, but we're still working at it. We're not giving up,
right?
And that's really, in the end. We may have fallen 1,000,000 times, but if we've gotten up 1,000,001 times, we're in good stead.
Yeah.
So, I got a question for you. How do you separate your heart from worldly things? I mean, how do you separate between your heart and the worldly things? I mean, sometimes people, when you become a Christian and you have a lot of needs. Someone comes to you, maybe if they need maybe help them pay their rent or whatever, and you don't give them, they feel like you're cruel. And sometimes people want to just like want to take advantage of your kindnesses, because we're all Christians, we're supposed to be kind, but how do we?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Trying to get at. How do you come to grips in terms of that?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we think we're all soft and whatever, but.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Well, that's part of Dorothy's thing too. It's about just this faith is our personal relationship with Jesus Christ. So Christianity is a personal relationship with one another, and I think that the more that we are actually in relationship with one another, the more sort of poised we are or positioned we are and to help one another. So I would be very suspicious and cautious about anybody who knocked at the door and said they needed $200 to pay their gas bill. You know, I mean, I don't think it's responsible to just hand $200. You know, on the other hand, someone with whom I'm in a relationship with that I know and all, then it would be, now we're more in a position to sort of help one another and all. So a
lot of it's just about getting to know people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really what it is. Yeah. This beauty of Worcester, of course, too, is that we all know one another.
Sure.
And I think that's a real gift that we have in Worcester.
I mean, that's a scary thought that people actually know me for.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean,
especially to those of us who do know you.
You're right. That's what And then the scariest thing that probably one of the scariest things is probably two of the scariest things you had waking up and seeing me on cable and not be on the show.
Yeah, really, I know it.
Yeah. What was I thinking?
I know.
You're probably going to say
I'm going to regret this. I am sure.
Well, thank you for your bravery in being on the show, Father John. Bruce, do you have any final words for the people of Worcester? Do you have any words or just the diabolical laugh?
That's pretty much it. That's all you need.
All right.
And one thing you say, the fear of the ghost.
I got a heart. You got a heart. All got you got a heart. When you get to heaven, gonna fill on the heart, gonna fill all over. Got heaven, heaven, heaven. Everybody talking about heaven, ain't going there. Heaven, heaven, gonna fill all over. Got heaven. I got a song. You got a song. All got you got a song. When you get to heaven, gonna sing on the song, gonna sing all over. Got heaven, heaven, heaven.